Shocking. Employee saves Millionaire'S life at midnight. But do you know what happened next? In the heart of the city, at the stroke of midnight, a bizarre event unfolded that would leave everyone gasping for answers. The night sky loomed dark and eerie, casting long shadows over the towering skyscrapers. A piercing scream shattered the stillness, echoing down the empty streets. A chill raced down people's spines as they turned, compelled by an unseen force, their eyes drawn to the scene unfolding below. Marcus Lane, the reclusive millionaire known for his eccentric antics, lay sprawled on the cold pavement, his face as pale as the moon above. Rumors had long swirled about his wealth, the hidden mansions, the fleet of rare cars, and gatherings of the elite that echoed with laughter one moment and hushed whispers the next. But what gripped them tighter now was the sight of his employee, Sarah Wu, rushing to his side. She was the least likely person anyone would expect to hold the piggy bank of a city in her hands, but here she was, with trembling hands and wide eyes, battling fate itself. That it was a heart-stopping moment, a cocktail of fear and moral panic. The clock ticked ominously, and each second weighed heavily in the air. People gathered, faces illuminated by eerie streetlights, their expressions painted with shock and disbelief. What had happened? A malfunction? An accident? What dark secrets was this millionaire hiding that led to such chaos? Then came the frantic paramedics, slicing through the growing crowd, and several gasps escaped thin lips. Sarah leaned in, her voice desperate, urging him to hold on, even as his breaths began to falter. Would she save him? Did she even want to? The questions hung thick like fog. But one thing was certain, the city's elite had been curiously silent, as Sarah represented the working class, the very hands that took care of Marcus while he played in his world of power. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the paramedics worked feverishly, one of them caught Marcus's terrified gaze. We've gotta get him stabilized, she barked, calling for oxygen. The truth twisted in the air. Why had this happened? The murmurs of the crowd surged like waves, speculation and suspicion whispering through the ranks of onlookers. Did Sarah really care about him? Or was it just a chance for a brighter future, an escape from her own struggles? Time slowed. One breath. Another. The world hung suspended, teetering on the brink of the unknown. Would Sarah succeed where many might fail? A bead of sweat trickled down her brow, and as she looked up, she caught the eyes of the crowd: judgment, intrigue, admiration, but also fear. Because hidden behind the dazzling facade of wealth was a darker truth that had yet to emerge. Was this just the beginning of a greater scandal? As Marcus's hand grew colder and the night deepened into uncomfortable silence, one thought echoed in the hearts of the gathered crowd. What dark secrets lay hidden in that millionaire's life, waiting to be unleashed? The tension in the air thickened as the paramedics continued their frantic attempts to stabilize Marcus. Every few seconds, flickers of light danced across the faces of the onlookers, the flash of a camera, the glow of a cell phone capturing the moment. This wasn't just a rescue. It was a spectacle. The crowd's murmurs turned into insistent whispers, brewing a storm of speculation. Did she push him? Someone suggested, breaking the hush. The words rippled through the group, igniting skeptical glances and tense exchanges. Sarah's eyes darted around the crowd, her breath quickening as paranoia nestled in alongside her panic. Push him? The accusation felt absurd, but the allure of a sensational story was seductive to some. Just breathe, Marcus. Please, she squeezed his hand, the warmth slipping away. The paramedics maneuvered equipment, and the beeping of heart monitors penetrated the air, sharp and urgent. The murmured uncertainties grew louder with each passing second. A voice broke free from the whispers. I heard he was tied to something big, something illegal. That single phrase sent shockwaves through the crowd, and curiosity morphed into fear. What if Marcus Lane was more than just a millionaire? What if his wealth hid layers of corruption, scandals that tainted everything he touched? Sarah felt a chill running down her spine. What if I'm tangled in this, too? She thought, her heart pounding in time with Marcus's fading pulse. Was she just the innocent bystander now trapped in a web of suspicion? The truth hung precariously, like a tightrope stretched over a yawning abyss. The paramedics began to shout instructions to each other. We need a defibrillator. Stat. Time was slipping away, and with it, any chance Sarah had to separate herself from the chaos that engulfed them both. Anxiety ripped at her insides as she felt the heat of the crowd's gaze assessing, judging, waiting for the next revelation. Would the world soon know her name as a savior or a villain? Moments felt like hours as the sirens wailed closer, slicing through the tension thickening in the night. Just then, a shadow slipped through the crowd. It was Eleanor, Marcus's business partner, her face a mask of shock. She pushed her way forward. Sarah, what happened? Frantic, her eyes darted between Marcus and Sarah, a brewing mixture of pity and accusation. Help! We need help. Sarah's voice quivered, emotions erupting like a volcano. Eleanor's gaze slid off Sarah to Marcus lying on the concrete. You should have called me. She snapped back, a flicker of fury lighting her expression. A deep breath stalled in Sarah's throat. Eleanor's accusation came with weight. It was like a punch to the gut. Did she truly believe Sarah meant harm? Not long after that burst of chaos, 2 police cars arrived, blue lights flashing, slicing through the night like a knife. Marginalized fear turned to palpable tension. As officers stepped out, the atmosphere turned electric. The police's arrival was a signal that things were about to escalate in ways nobody had anticipated. Sarah's heart raced. Would they interrogate her? Looking down at Marcus, her instincts kicked in. She had to protect him and herself. But what would she reveal? How deep did the rabbit hole go? What lay underneath the polished surface of wealth and privilege? The crowd watched with bated breath, each one of them waiting for the truth to spill out like ink from a frail pen. And in that glowing circle of lights and shadows, Sarah realized this was just the beginning. What was lurking beneath the surface was far darker than any of them could have dreamed. As they closed in on the scene, the question lingered, unspoken but heavy. What would they uncover when they pulled back the veil of Marcus Lane's life? The chaos intensified as the police began to push through the crowd, their presence igniting a new wave of speculation among the onlookers. Sarah's eyes collided with those of Officer Daniels, a familiar face she had seen in the neighborhood. His brow furrowed as he approached, his voice steady and authoritative. Step back, everyone. Give them space. He barked, making it clear that this was now a matter for the authorities. The crowd obeyed but didn't disperse. Their curiosity was insatiable. Whispers morphed into questions, each one sharper than the last. Who was that woman? Did she do this? Was Marcus involved in something shady? Among the murmurs, Sarah's mind raced. Would she be painted as a suspect? The weight of the crowd's scrutiny bore down on her like a physical force. She turned to Eleanor, whose face had shifted from bewilderment to grim determination. Did you know about Marcus's connections? Eleanor asked, her voice low but laced with tension. It was less of a question and more of an accusation, and every word felt like a spinning blade. No, I swear. I didn't. I don't know. Sarah's panic spilled into her voice. Each frantic syllable felt like a desperate plea. Eleanor's eyes narrowed as she studied Sarah, as if searching for cracks in her facade. Sarah instinctively stepped back, knowing her own guilt might be the weapon used against her. Just then, the paramedics shouted out that they were ready to transport Marcus. A stretcher was brought forth, and the crowd gasped collectively as they prepared to lift him. Sarah felt her stomach churn. Why isn't he moving? Someone asked, dread lacing their voice. He not responsive, another answered with disbelief. Sarah tried to find solace in the rapid movements of the paramedics, but the lingering doubts clung to her thoughts like thick fog. As Marcus was hoisted onto the stretcher, Sarah stared at his pale face. Would he survive this? And if he did, what would he say? Would he mention the last scene they shared? Her heart raced again, fear and hope intertwining into a dizzying spiral. Ma'am, can you step to the side? Officer Daniels called out, his voice breaking through her chaotic thoughts. We need to ask you a few questions. She nodded, taking a step back. It felt as if the ground had dropped out from beneath her. The police had come for her, and each second stretched painfully long as she awaited their next move. One of the officers moved toward her, his notepad at the ready. "What is your relationship to the victim?" I work for him," Sarah stammered, her throat dry. I was what happened before the incident." He pressed, his tone calm but stern. "I don't know." Suddenly, a commotion erupted at the back of the crowd. Sarah turned, her heart sinking further as she saw a figure pushing through the masses, swathed in a long coat. Sam, Marcus's estranged brother. "What the hell happened?" Sam's voice thrashed through the air, raw with anger and desperation. All eyes turned to him, the unexpected drama amplifying the tension in the atmosphere. "Sam!" Eleanor shouted across the fray, her confusion morphing into concern. But Sam's attention was fixed solely on Sarah, and there was a fury in his eyes, an ember waiting to ignite. As he approached, the questions hung in the air like dark clouds ready to break. "What did you do to him?" he demanded, his words cutting through the night. Sarah's chest tightened, the accusation boomeranging back to her. She had to make a choice now: defend herself and risk the truth bursting open, or remain silent and let the shadows consume her. As the sirens faded into the distance, leaving behind an uncomfortable silence, she realized this moment would define her. What would she say? What secrets could she risk revealing? And as she opened her mouth to respond, the truth hovered perilously close, ready to tip the scales toward chaos or redemption. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, tension crackling in the air like electricity. Sarah's mind raced. What could she say? Would her silence shield her from accusations, or would it only fuel Sam's fury? "Sarah, answer me." Sam's voice climbed in pitch, desperation spilling into his words. "Did you hurt him? Please, just tell me the truth." The weight of his stare was unbearable. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, as if she stood on the edge of a cliff, the ground crumbling beneath her. She took a shaky breath, feeling the cold air pinch at her lungs. "I didn't hurt him, I swear. I was just helping him with a project. He had some people after him. I don't know why. People after him?" Sam scoffed, folding his arms across his chest. "What kind of trouble has he gotten himself into this time? You can't expect me to buy that without proof." "Sam, you don't understand," she pleaded, her voice trembling. Marcus was scared. He thought someone was watching him. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to get somewhere safe, Sam. Whatever he was into, we don't know how deep it runs. It could put all of us in danger." "What do you know, Eleanor?" Sam shot back, his anger flaring. "You've never liked him. Why should we listen to you?" "Because I don't want to see either of you end up like Marcus." Eleanor's plea resonated, and Sam hesitated, the raw edge of his anger softening for just an instant. But Sarah could see the storm still brewing within him. "He's in the hospital, and we need to know what happened before we can figure out how to help him." Desperation clung to her like sweat, making her voice sharp as glass. An officer interrupted, stepping further into the fray. "We need to clear this scene. If you have information, it's best to give it to us now." He looked at Sam. "You too. Come with us." The murmur of the crowd faded as the officer ushered them to a nearby police car, the bright flashing lights a stark contrast against the dark night. The glow illuminated their anxious faces, revealing fear and uncertainty. Once behind the closed door of the cruiser, tensions mounted. Officer Daniels leaned in, his eyes darting from Sarah to Sam, then back again. "Let us get to the bottom of this. I need you both to tell me everything you know now." Panic surged in Sarah as the weight of their shared history felt heavier in the cramped space. He has been mixed up with some dangerous people. I found letters, names, threats. Sam's demeanor shifted, now tinged with concern. "What did the letters say?" She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat choking her words. "I didn't take them seriously at first. I thought it was just business pressure. But now I can't shake the feeling they were real." As she fumbled with her memories, the shadows deepened around them. "He had a meeting scheduled tonight, right before this happened. He mentioned needing to be careful. Do you have any idea who those people are?" Officer Daniels pressed, intense eyes boring into her. "No, but I think." Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed violently against the car seat, breaking through the tension. She hesitated, almost afraid to look. But as her heart raced, she snatched it up, squinting at the screen. A single message, sent just moments ago, chilled her to the bone. "Keep your mouth shut, or it'll be you next." Panic washed over her like icy water. She glanced at Sam and Officer Daniels, whose eyes were now wide with realization. The danger that loomed felt all too real. She had unwittingly stepped into a web of threats that could snare her next. "What do I do?" she whispered, her voice saturated with dread. And as the weight of the situation sank into the air, the question lingered: who was coming for her? The silence was deafening, pushing forward the urgency of a confrontation that loomed closer. The weight of fear wrapped around Sarah like a suffocating blanket. She could hardly catch her breath, her heart pounding against her ribs. Panic flickered in Sam's eyes, and he shifted uncomfortably beside her. Officer Daniels, face taut, leaned closer, each word that escaped his lips urging her to take action. "Do you need to tell someone? Someone outside of this car?" he asked, his voice low and serious. She shook her head slightly, a mix of confusion and terror clouding her thoughts. "No, I'm just scared. I didn't know he was in that deep." "Of course, you're scared," Sam snapped, irritation bubbling beneath the worry. "But we can't let this go. You have to tell us what those letters said. They might hold the key to what's going on." "I can't remember all of it," Sarah stammered, forcing the words past the tightness in her throat. One name stood out. Whenever he spoke about it, it was always in hushed tones: Marco. "That's the only name I can think of." Officer Daniels scribbled furiously in his notebook, urgency reflecting in his brow. "Do you know anything about Marco? Anything at all?" "No, just that Marcus was terrified of him. Said he was connected to someone dangerous," she replied. She felt all the blood drain from her face as she comprehended the implications. "It was just supposed to be a project for the school. I didn't think. Someone dangerous can lead straight to us," Sam muttered, his teeth clenched tightly as his mind raced ahead. "And we don't know if they're watching us now." Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed again, this time with an incoming call. Her breath hitched. Glancing at the screen, she saw Marcus's number flash ominously. "No, it can't be," she murmured, her fingers hesitating over the screen. The phone continued to vibrate, as though it had a heartbeat of its own. "What are you waiting for?" Sam urged, his composure breaking. "Pick it up." As Sarah's trembling fingers accepted the call, she pressed the phone to her ear, a flood of dread crashing over her. "Marcus?" she whispered, the tremor evident in her voice. There was a long pause, then she heard it: heavy breathing, a rustle, and finally, a voice that sent chills down her spine. "Sarah, listen closely. You need to leave that car." "What?" Her heart raced. "Leave? Why? What is going on?" "Not safe. They're watching. You can't stay where you are," he instructed, urgency threading his words. "Get to Eleanor's. Trust no one." The line went dead, leaving a silence that felt heavy and suffocating. Sarah blinked rapidly, barely grasping what had just happened. "Who is it?" Sam asked, his voice tight. "Marcus," she replied shakily, the reality of his warning settling over them like a storm cloud. "No way," Officer Daniels replied, shifting in his seat. "We need to get out of here now." If they're watching. Just then, a dark figure emerged from the shadows, standing just beyond the reach of the police lights. The figure was tall, with a hood that obscured the face, and a single flash of silver glinted in their hand. "Get down," Sam yelled instinctively, pulling Sarah into a crouch as they ducked low into the seat. The tension in the air was electric, radiating with the threat of what was to come. Heart pounding in her ears, Sarah peered from her hidden vantage, pulse racing as the figure took a step closer, a strange confidence emanating from the darkness. "What do we do?" Sarah gasped, panic threatening to tear her apart. The figure paused, then raised a hand, and in that moment, a new fear ignited within her. "Get ready," Officer Daniels whispered, his voice a low growl, as they all braced for what was coming next. And as Sarah stole another glance at the figure, a horrifying realization crystallizing in her mind, she knew this was only the beginning. The figure continued to stand there, an inscrutable silhouette against the flickering police lights. Sarah felt a cold sweat trickle down her back. She could hear the muffled thumping of her own heart, as if it were a war drum signaling an imminent threat. Uncertainty clung to her, thick and almost suffocating. "What the hell are they doing?" Sam whispered harshly, his breath hot against Sarah's ear. She didn't know. Not just about the figure lurking outside, but about everything: the mysterious letters, Marco, Marcus's warning. Are they connected? She thought. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, and the figure didn't seem in a hurry to leave. Officer Daniels reached for his sidearm, his movements steady yet filled with urgency. "Stay down," he commanded, eyes locked on their intruder. "If this goes sideways, I need you to stay quiet." Sarah's lips parted, ready to ask what they should do next when suddenly, the figure turned sharply, retreating back into the shadows as if a switch had flipped. The tension in the air shifted instantly, leaving them in a haunting silence. Only the distant hum of traffic broke through the heaviness. "What just happened?" Sam finally spoke, his voice strained as he cautiously rose slightly from their hiding place. "I don't know," Sarah replied, glancing into the noir darkness. "But I think we should go. We can't stay here." Officer Daniels nodded, his gaze still on the spot where the figure had stood. "We have to move. Eleanor isn't far. We take the back roads and keep the lights off." As they crawled out of the car, Sarah felt the chill of the night wrap around them. The air was thick, heavy with the smell of damp earth and impending doom. Every sound felt amplified: the crunch of gravel beneath their feet, the rustling of foliage, and even the distant bark of a dog. "Are you ready?" Daniels asked quietly as he examined the darkness around them, searching for more threats. "Ready as I can be," Sam replied. His voice wavered, and Sarah could see the fear etched on his features. They were all scared, and it sent a bolt of adrenaline through her. "Stick close together," Sarah murmured. They started their cautious trek, moving as silently as possible toward Eleanor's place. The shadows loomed larger than life, wrapping around them like an unseen predator. As they reached the edge of the wooded area, a low growl echoed from behind a nearby tree, sending icy fingers racing down her spine. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, pushing ahead as the sound intensified, becoming a haunting cacophony of rustles. Daniel scanned the area, weapon raised. "Keep moving." With each step, anticipation built within her. What lay ahead? Would they reach Eleanor unharmed? Then, as if their fear had summoned its manifestation, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the trees, sending her heart plummeting into her stomach. It was a chilling sound that seemed to wrap around her, making her limbs go cold. "What was that?" Sam shouted, panic flooding his voice. "I don't know," Officer Daniels replied, his expression turning grave. "But we have to hurry." They quickened their pace, adrenaline pushing past the horror enveloping them. Shadows twisted around them, threatening, a reminder that danger was lurking just out of sight. When they finally burst through the thicket, the lights of Eleanor's house flickered invitingly in the distance. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope, but it was short-lived. Just as they broke out into the open clearing, a figure stepped from the side of the house, silhouetted by the glowing porch light. "Get inside now," the figure shouted, urgency slicing through the air. It was Eleanor, but something seemed off in her voice. Why was she out here, and who was she warning? As they rushed toward her, Sarah's heart twisted with uncertainty. "What is happening?" Eleanor's eyes were wild, almost desperate. "They've found us. We need to." A shot rang out, cracking through the calm night. Everything shattered into chaos, and in that moment, Sarah realized the real nightmare was just beginning. Eleanor's scream echoed in the stillness of the night, mixing with the sudden crack of gunfire. It felt as if time froze for an instant. The guttural fear that gripped Sarah's chest was suffocating. They had barely made it out of one hellish situation, and now this. "Get inside," Eleanor shouted again, urgency driving her voice like a whip. As they stumbled toward her, adrenaline surged through Sarah's veins, propelling her forward. "Run!" Officer Daniels barked, his gaze darting nervously into the dark woods behind them. But as they reached the porch, a second shot rang out. The sound was so distinct, so close. It sent Sam diving past Sarah, pulling her through the door as if she were a rag doll. The bang of the door slamming shut felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Inside, the lights flickered ominously, casting shadows in every corner. Eleanor shoved a heavy wooden dresser against the door, her breath ragged. "They're coming. We've got to barricade ourselves." "What?" Sam cried, bewildered. "What the hell is going on?" Sarah's gaze locked onto Eleanor's eyes, wild and shining with fear. "Who is coming? What did you mean?" Panic bubbled within her, each word crackling like electricity in the charged air. Eleanor pressed her palm to her temple, breathing heavily. It's not just them. It's everything. Those letters, they weren't just threats. They knew. They've been watching us. Letters? Daniels asked, his tone tight. What letters? From Marco, Eleanor whispered, her eyes darting around the dimly lit room as if the answers were lurking in the shadows. He's involved, he's been feeding them information. He's the reason they came for us. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. The man she thought she could trust was betraying them. Why would he do that? She asked, the lump in her throat growing larger. Because Eleanor faltered, the color draining from her face. He's in deeper than we realized. It's not just us he's protecting. He's protecting something bigger. Before Sarah could process that revelation, a thrumming sound reverberated through the walls. It was a low, ominous thud, growing louder with each pulse. The windows rattled in their frames, and the lights above them flickered dangerously. What is that? Sam asked, eyes wide with terror. He's here, Eleanor shouted, evident despair creeping into her voice. We need to get to the basement. There's no time, Officer Daniels said, rushing toward the back of the house. We have to keep him out. Use anything. With no other options, they scrambled around the living room. Sarah grabbed a metal chair, Sam a lamp. Eleanor swept the coffee table clear, her movements frantic as they prepared to face whatever darkness awaited them. Another thud echoed. This time the sound was accompanied by the snap of branches outside. Go, Daniels commanded, urgency in his voice. Get ready. The door rattled violently, the dresser straining against the force outside. Sarah could already sense it through the wood, a primal instinct screaming at her that their safety was slipping away. Eleanor's eyes poured desperation onto them. We're going to fight. There's no other choice. Just as they positioned themselves, the door burst open, the dresser crashing back like a broken promise. A figure loomed in the entryway, a dark shape framed by the doorway's light. Eleanor, it called, voice dripping with malice. I've come to collect what's mine. A wave of cold terror washed over Sarah. This was not just a confrontation. This was a reckoning. What would they do next? As the confrontation drew nearer, shadows danced with malicious glee in anticipation. In that unbearable moment, they faced a choice that could seal their fates forever. Would they resist or surrender? The night was just getting started. The figure in the doorway stepped into the flickering light, revealing a face twisted with a cruel smirk. It was someone they hadn't expected, someone horrifyingly familiar. Nate, Eleanor whispered, her voice trembling. Sarah's heart raced as she pieced together the face from the past. This was Nate, a shadow from Eleanor's life, once a friend turned enemy. The air grew thick with tension, a palpable fear that clung to their skin. You thought you could hide? Nate taunted, stepping forward, his movements slow and deliberate. You thought you'd get away from me? Get back. Officer Daniels yelled, brandishing the metal chair like a weapon. But Nate merely chuckled, completely unfazed. I didn't come to fight. I came to collect, he said, glancing toward Eleanor with a menacing glint in his eye. And it's not just her I want. You all have a part to play. Sensing the threat, Sarah gripped the lamp tighter, her knuckles whitening. What do you want from us? She demanded, her voice shaky yet defiant. Nate's expression darkened, the smirk fading. You really don't know, do you? You're all in way over your heads, tangled up in something you can't begin to comprehend. Suddenly, another loud bang echoed from behind them, breaking through the silence of the room. It felt like a warning shot. Sam flinched, his eyes darting toward the back of the house where Officer Daniels had gone to investigate. What was that? Sam hissed, stepping back. More of them, Eleanor muttered, her eyes darting nervously toward the darkness beyond their sanctuary. They found us. Enough of this. Nate snapped, reaching into his coat pocket. The glimmer of metal sent Sarah's heart plummeting. If you want to survive, you need to listen to me. What makes you think we'll trust you? Eleanor spat, anger flaring despite the fear looming over them. I'm your only way out, Nate replied coldly, pulling out a small device. It looked like a remote, its screen flickering ominously. This is your ticket, but you have to act quickly. They're here. Just then, the door behind them cracked ominously as if the universe itself was warning them of the impending doom waiting just outside. What have you done, Eleanor? You opened a door you couldn't shut, Nate continued, his tone dangerously calm. The walls felt like they were closing in, and Sarah's mind raced as she tried to process every word, every implication. They were tangled in a web of chaos, and she was losing her grip. Why did Marco turn against us? What does he have to do with this? Sarah demanded, her voice breaking at the end. Nate's lips curled into a bitter smile. The real question is, what does he want from you? There are things you don't know, things he plans to unleash. If you don't figure this out, it won't just be your lives at stake. It's much bigger than that. The thudding outside grew more intense, and Officer Daniels burst into the room, panting heavily. We don't have much time, he yelled. Just then, another mighty crash splintered the doorframe, sending wood chips flying as the pressure built behind it. Are you with me or against me? Nate asked, his voice rising over the chaos. His gaze pierced through the tension, challenging them to make a choice. Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding in her ears. The air thrummed with urgency. They had to decide what to do, and fast. Would they join him, or face the horrors that awaited them outside? In that moment, as the door splintered under relentless force, it was crystal clear survival depended on their next move. What choice would they make? The splintering wood exploded in a shower of debris, and Sarah's heart seemed to jump from her chest. Fragments of the door shot into the room like shrapnel. Time seemed to freeze. Everything hung in the air, the dust, the fear, the question that wrapped tightly around their thoughts. Get behind me, Officer Daniels shouted, positioning himself between the group and the encroaching madness, but his voice was lost in the crashing tide of chaos. Now, choose. Nate's voice surged with a desperate intensity. The small remote glowed ominously, illuminating hatred and desperation in his eyes. Join you? Eleanor's voice dripped with disdain. You think we'd ever trust you? You're insane. Mere trust won't keep you alive when they break through. Nate's laughter was sharp, almost maniacal. Think of it as a necessary evil. I'm with you, Nate, Sarah blurted, the words spilling from her lips before her mind could weigh the consequences. The swelling dread that had gripped her since this nightmare began surged anew. Survival. That was all that mattered now. No. Eleanor gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. You can't possibly mean that. They're not going to stop, Eleanor, Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the growing noise outside. She felt the rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. I'm not losing my life for your stubbornness. Outside, the first figure broke through the wreckage, ripping at the remnants of the door. Darkness loomed behind them, each shadow twisting into something more sinister. Then you can join her in death, Nate growled. He thrust the remote into Sarah's grasp. Press this when I say. It's our only chance. Sarah, no. You can't trust him. The panic in Eleanor's voice was palpable, like ice piercing through the thick fog of fear enveloping them all. So what is the alternative? Hiding and dying, Sarah yelled, pacing the small space as her decision crystallized. We need to do something. Nate turned, his steely gaze meeting hers. We need to move. Trust my lead, and I swear we'll make it out of this. Officer Daniels grunted as he attempted to fend off the shadows encroaching from outside. Figures shuffled, collective breaths echoing through the fragmenting doorway. Sweat glistened on his forehead, reality crashing down on them. Here they come, Daniels warned, eyes darting between the door and the group. We have seconds. Choose. Press it, Sarah. We don't have time. Nate's urgency escalated, every second stretching into an eternity. Do it, Sam chimed in, his voice now laced with urgency. You have to. For a split second, the pulse of fear synchronized in Sarah's veins. The weight of every choice pressed down on her chest, a choice that could save their lives or condemn them all. You're both insane, Eleanor shouted, eyes shimmering with desperation. This is a trap. But as the figures surged forward, breaking through the door, Sarah felt the decision made. It was now or never. Press it, Nate bellowed, his frustration spilling into the air. With trembling hands, she hovered over the button. And then, the unmistakable look in Nate's eyes struck her, a dark certainty wrapped tightly in shadows. Beneath the chaos, laying just beyond their reach, lay that crushing truth. What would happen if she pressed it? Did they plunge deeper into danger or unleash something far worse? And maybe, just maybe, there was no way out at all. As the flood of bodies pushed through the remnants of the door, time splintered again. Now, Sarah? The device hummed ominously, awaiting her decision, teetering on the edge of fate. In that chaotic moment, everything hung in balance: lives, secrets, and the very fabric of their resolve. What awaited them on the other side? An almost deafening silence hung thick as Sarah's trembling finger hovered above the glowing button. The weight of unease pressed against her chest as shadows poured through the broken doorway, like water through a crack. Each second stretched endlessly, the moment fracturing into 1,000 forks in the road, each one leading to potential doom. "Do it." Sam's urgent whisper sliced through her turmoil, the raw panic in his voice sending fresh adrenaline rushing through her veins. "Trust me, I know what I'm doing," Nate insisted, urgency unraveling in every word as he edged closer to the door, eager yet fearful of the darkness creeping ever nearer. But Eleanor's voice rang clear, full of desperate skepticism. "This is a trap, Sarah. Don't you see? He's leading you to your death." One frantic step backward brought Sarah closer to the reality of her situation. Her instincts were in conflict. Was Nate trustworthy? Or was he just using her to escape a nightmarish tangle of tangled lies? "Press it," Officer Daniels growled, shoving against the influx of figures threatening to breach the threshold. "We need whatever this good-for-nothing thing will do." With a deafening roar of treachery, a shadowy figure broke through, sending splinters of wood sprawling across the room. They were no longer alone. Panic ignited within Sarah as a dozen faces emerged, rough and hostile, eyes gleaming with malicious intent. "Now, Sarah?" The urgency in Nate's voice was relentless. She glimpsed the determination in his narrowed eyes, and a strange certainty began to settle over her. She thought of Marcus lying on that pavement, his life hanging in the balance. She thought of the threats lingering in the shadows, and of the letters that had spun a web of secrets around them all. "Now," Nate shouted again, pushing closer, desperation casting shadows across his face. With a sudden surge of determination, she pressed down hard on the button. A blinding light erupted from the device. The air crackled with energy as waves of force surged outward, rolling toward the dark figures that had invaded their home. Screams erupted as the light enveloped them, illuminating swirling chaos figures in panic, silhouettes twisting and fading into the tension-filled night. A pulse of brightness surged through the room, illuminating all beneath its harsh glare. But this wasn't just light. It was power, a force that seemed to reshape everything. Eleanor shielded her eyes, gasping at the phenomenon unfolding. "What have you done?" she cried, astonished. Through the blinding light, Sarah suddenly saw glimpses of faces, flashes of recognition, the trapped ones who had been snared in this chaos. They were scrambling, desperately trying to escape the radiant energy that enveloped them. "Hold together," Nate shouted, and beneath the chaos, an undeniable truth flickered into focus. There was a power in unity that surged stronger than the darkness that sought to entrap them. With each passing second, the bright energy began to consume the shadows. The malice dissolved away, leaving remnants that echoed of past grievances. The air vibrated with intensity, the light pushing out against their fears, giving way to a sudden stillness. As the brilliance started to fade, Sarah's heart raced. She blinked against the lingering glow, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The figures, those who had pursued them, had vanished, either absorbed by the light or banished into the void. The room was silent, no longer filled with chaos and dread. One moment hung above them, all a sliver of hope. But then, eyes turned towards Sarah. The uncertainty from Eleanor and Sam mingled with disbelief. Nate's mouth twisted in a grimace of something triumph or terror. She couldn't tell. "That was insane," Sam shouted, the adrenaline still pumping through his words. "But are we safe?" "I think so," Sarah stammered, her chest somehow both heavy and buoyant. "But what did we just unleash?" Eleanor stared, eyes wide. "We had no idea what we were tampering with." Nate's expression shifted, the shadows of his past becoming clearer as he took a step back, leaning against the wall as if the truth weighed him down. "You have no idea what's next this isn't over." Sarah felt the air in the room shift again, a tension so thick it wrapped around all of them in bondage. "What do you mean?" she asked cautiously, fear flickering back in her eyes. Nate straightened, resolve shining through the shadows. "They'll come for us, and now they know we're aware. That will change everything." And as the reality of those words settled in, Sarah's world shook once again. They had survived this moment, but the fight felt far from over. With a heavy silence, they exchanged glances, each of them aware that the battle for survival had just shifted. "Let us figure this out together," Sam murmured, determination igniting something deep within them, a sense of camaraderie forged in the fires of chaos. And in that single breath of united strength, Sarah realized something powerful. Fear could breed darkness, but hope could be the light that led them out of it. Ending one nightmare, they stepped into a new dawn, fraught with uncertainty, but brimming with the potential for a better tomorrow. As they squeezed hands tight and stepped forward together, the journey was just beginning. So, what's next for them? What other truths unraveled beneath the surface? And how deep does the rabbit hole go? If you loved this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe now and never miss out on the next unwinding tale. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and keep this journey alive. Come on, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what's coming next. Do you think they'll make it through? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely have to see this conclusion.